Football sells itself on three words without ever printing them together on the ticket: transparency, fairness, trust. The World Cup is supposed to be the place where the best players, the best officials, and the clearest standards all meet under the brightest lights. And then Omar Artan landed in Miami. A 34-year-old referee from Mogadishu, CAF Men's Referee of the Year for 2025, the first Somali ever selected to officiate at a FIFA World Cup, arrived with a diplomatic passport, a single-entry U.S. visa, and FIFA paperwork for the biggest appointment of his life. Instead of joining the other officials for tournament prep, he was pulled into secondary inspection, questioned for 11 hours, and put back on a plane. That is not a bureaucratic hiccup. That is the credibility of the tournament colliding with the reality of power. And Artan is not just any official caught in a system. That matters. This is a referee FIFA had vetted over years, a referee who had already worked the Africa Cup of Nations, a referee who had just taken charge of the second leg of the CAF Champions League final, a referee whose selection was celebrated by Somalia's president as inspiration for a new generation. Before leaving, Artan told BBC Somali, "Every referee's ambition is to go to the World Cup. Years of effort finally made sense." Then came his reaction after the denial. Not rage, not grandstanding, but dignity. "I had the right papers and everything. I had the right visa," he said. Later, back home, he told supporters, "I promise you, God willing, that I will attend the next one." Why does that reaction matter? Because when the most composed man in the story is the one who lost the most, everybody else's excuses get louder. Now reconstruct the sequence. Saturday, Artan flies via Istanbul to Miami, where FIFA referees chief Pierluigi Collina has established the officials' World Cup base. Not in Toronto, not in Mexico City. Miami. All 52 referees and 88 assistant referees are required to stay there for training, preparation, and security. At Miami International Airport, Artan is stopped. He later says border officials repeatedly questioned him about al-Shabaab and Somali politics. U.S. officials call it vetting concerns. CBS reports an administration official described derogatory information, including alleged association with suspected members of terror organizations. Andrew Giuliani then goes further on camera, saying Artan was talking to some very bad people and that there is some classified information that cannot yet be discussed. But where is the evidence? Where is the document? Where is the charge? Where is the public threshold that explains how FIFA's World Cup referee became, suddenly, too dangerous to enter the country hosting his tournament? That vacuum is where trust starts to die. FIFA's official response was precise, polished, and revealing. FIFA can confirm that match official Omar Artan will be unable to train and officiate at the FIFA World Cup 2026 after he was denied entry into the United States. Then the key line: FIFA is not involved in host country immigration processes. Then the surrender. A host government ultimately determines who receives a visa and who is admitted into their country. That statement is factually neat and morally thin. Because the problem is not that FIFA controls U.S. borders. The problem is that FIFA sold a three-country World Cup as open, global, inclusive, and operationally ready, while building a tournament structure that made one U.S. border decision fatal to a referee's participation everywhere, even in Canada and Mexico. So when British Columbia Premier David Eby said, "Let's have him referee in Vancouver," and Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow said, "He would be welcome to referee here in our city," the offer sounded humane, and FIFA's architecture sounded absurd. Canada opened the door. FIFA had already locked the route. Then came the gap between statement and evidence. FIFA says it cannot intervene. Fine. But FIFA did intervene when it built the system. FIFA chose the centralized Miami camp. FIFA chose the dependency on U.S. access for officials working a tournament spread across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. FIFA selected Artan after what CBS reports was a 3-year process of vetting and evaluation. And just days after the United States blocked him, UEFA appointed him to referee the UEFA Super Cup between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa in Salzburg on August 12th. UEFA President Alexander Ceferin called him an excellent young but already experienced referee. Patrice Motsepe said his standing reflected world-class refereeing ability. Read that again. Too risky for the World Cup. Good enough for one of Europe's showpiece matches. What exactly changed? The referee or the politics around him? That contrast is brutal. And then the pundit chorus started, each voice exposing a different fracture. Ian Wright went first, furious and embarrassed for the competition itself. He called it a World Cup of chaos and listed the pattern in one breath. Fans denied, player denied, officials denied, journalists denied, now refs. That is outrage doing what outrage should do, refusing to normalize a scandal by calling it paperwork. Ramon Vega took the analytical route, saying, FIFA failed miserably in this regard. The slogan "Football Unites" rang hollow. Disgrace. Then he reached back to Gianni Infantino's own 2017 position. If teams, supporters, and officials cannot access the host country, there is no World Cup. And Gary Neville, on a different controversy but the same theme, delivered the cutting line. It's like a dictatorship. They hold this evidence and don't show it for fans. Different tones, same verdict. The institution wants the authority of global football without accepting the burden of transparent proof. BBC Sports, Yahoo Sporting News, ESPN. And that takes us to the second story, because this is where it becomes impossible to call Omar Artan an isolated case. Saturday, Group B, Switzerland against Qatar in Santa Clara, San Francisco Bay Area. 14th minute. Switzerland attack. Remo Freuler goes through, Qatar goalkeeper Mahmoud Abanada brings him down, and the penalty is awarded. Breel Mbolo scores. Straight away the question is obvious. Was Freuler offside? Was Mbolo offside earlier in the move? Under FIFA's enhanced semi-automated system, viewers are supposed to get the 3D animation, the polished visual proof, the technology demonstration, the bit that tells millions of people, trust the process. But on the broadcast, it never arrives. No avatar graphic, no decisive visual. Just a check, a goal, and a blank space where transparency was supposed to be. What did viewers get instead? Delay, confusion, and 4.5 hours of doubt. FIFA's response was again carefully worded and again revealing. It said a brief technical outage prevented the onside animation from being generated ahead of the penalty awarded in the 14th minute. It later released still images with lines drawn by VAR and insisted the workflow of the VAR was not affected. But the usual 3D graphic never appeared. And that matters because this tournament had already been using those graphics quickly, even on non-controversial calls. BBC pointed out that Canada's Tani Oluwazei offside against Bosnia-Herzegovina had been shown clearly, and that even Morocco's Ismail Saibari goal versus Brazil got a prompt graphic despite little doubt. In other words, when the system works, FIFA shows it. When the decision is disputed, viewers were told to accept a late explanation instead. Gary Neville's response was savage. "We all think it. The goal is offside." Ian Wright added, "They do what they want. We're seeing it now. It's scandalous." And when Qatar equalized in the 94th minute to make it 1-1, the scoreline closed the match, but not the argument. So now look at the pattern. In one case, a referee personally selected by FIFA is denied entry, and the institution says it is powerless. In another, a key offside visual fails to appear in a high-stakes World Cup moment, and the institution says, "Trust us, the check was fine." In another, Iran's federation says its group stage ticket allocation was revoked days before the tournament, with FIFA later saying it is trying to maximize opportunities for supporters. Iran had already moved its training base from Tucson to Tijuana, and some officials had been denied visas. Iraq striker Ayman Hussein was reportedly questioned for nearly 7 hours at Chicago O'Hare, while team photographer Talal Saleh was held for more than 10 hours and denied entry. Different people, different mechanisms, same pattern. When football's values are tested by logistics, borders, or transparency, the burden keeps landing on the people with the least power to absorb it. That is not chaos by accident. That is hierarchy exposed. BBC Sports, Yahoo Sporting News, CBS Chicago. And in the middle of it all is Gianni Infantino's tone. Asked about Artan and the growing visa controversy, the FIFA president said, "Maybe sometimes it's good as well to chill, relax." He later insisted FIFA works behind the scenes and that the organization is not the kings of the world. That line is meant to sound humble. It lands as deflection. Because nobody asked FIFA to become the kings of the world. People asked FIFA to govern the World Cup. It sold to the world. People asked why a three-host tournament was designed so one country's border decision could erase a referee from the whole event. People asked why a competition preaching inclusion keeps forcing its weakest participants to carry the cost of exclusion. People asked why a sport that now monitors limbs by centimeters cannot produce immediate visual proof in the moment it is needed most. Those are not impossible questions. They are governing questions. And right now, FIFA's answers sound smaller than the tournament it runs. That is why Canada's reaction hits so hard. David Eby and Olivia Chow did not solve the problem. But they exposed it. They showed that this was not simply about one inadmissibility ruling buried in paperwork. It was about institutional choices. A host in the same World Cup could publicly say, in effect, we would take him, we would welcome him, we would let merit stand. But the system FIFA built left no root for that welcome to matter. And then UEFA, acting with startling speed, gave Artan a major final in Salzburg while FIFA told everybody to accept the loss and move on. One institution said process. Another said respect. One told the public to calm down. The other handed the man a whistle. That contrast will outlive the press conferences. So the real question is no longer whether the 2026 World Cup has a crisis. It does. The question is where authority in football actually sits when values and power collide. Is it with the governing body that markets unity but retreats behind procedure? Is it with the host governments that decide who gets in, who gets searched, who gets sent home? Is it with confederations like UEFA that can move faster and speak more clearly than FIFA when one of the game's top referees is humiliated? Or is it with the public, the viewers, the fans, the people asked again and again to believe without seeing? Because once fans start noticing that the evidence is delayed, the rules are flexible, and the compassion comes from somewhere other than the sport's own center, the damage is not temporary. It becomes memory. BBC, CBS News, ESPN. And maybe that is the sentence this tournament has already earned. When the tape is missing, the proof is classified, and the best referee from Somalia is welcome in Vancouver but not usable in FIFA's World Cup, trust is no longer a principle. It is a demand backed by power.